I can confirm that the live stream and recording have begun.
Okay, thank you. I see that we are at 5:30, and I see that we have a quorum in council. So I will call this regular council meeting in session for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. And as we usually do, we have a land recognition statement, and this week it will be read by Councillor Bob Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish and with Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hildebrand. Before we move on to the approving of the agenda, I would, at the indulgence of council, like to send out kudos to the staff of our town's Recreation and Wellness Department for putting on, or for staging, such a great Easter egg hunt in collaboration with the Fenwick Lions Club. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful morning, and the town supplied 60,000 eggs that staff distributed onto the playing field of Centennial 1 playing field, baseball diamond, and the Lions supplied hot chocolate and hot dogs to all those who participated in the hunt. It was an excellent event, and the Lions members estimated that we had over 700 residents turn out for the event. So again, thank you to the Rec Department and to the Lions Club, the fabulous Fenwick Lions in Fenwick. To you, Madam Clerk, Deputy Clerk. Oh, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand, that the agenda for council be amended to add the addendum being item number 10.2.2, amendment to Parkland Water Main Installation Project Budget, and to move item 8.4.1, Family and Children's Service Niagara, June 12th, Mountain View Lemonade Day Proclamation to be heard after item 4.2.1, Delegation, Family and Children's Services Niagara. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any discussion.
Thank you. Any discussion on these agenda amendments? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That does bring us to be it resolved that the agenda for April 19th, 2022 regular meeting of council be adopted as amended, and this motion is put forth by Councillor Olson and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. To Mr. Mayor for any discussion.
Okay, any discussion from council on the amended agenda? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. So for the agenda to be amended, this resolution vote begins with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry, and that does bring you to the disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a disclosure of pecuniary interests or general nature thereof to declare? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I have so noted. That does bring you to your presentations, and your first presentation is a COVID-19 pandemic update, and this is from Chief Limburner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, councilors and members of SLT. Just a quick update. So as of today, Pelham has had total active case count in the last 28 days, 127. Our activity rate per 10,000 population is 2.7, which ranks us 7th out of the 12 municipalities. Niagara region had has a total active cases of 1,911, 13 new today. Those numbers are definitely lower than they really are because of the lack of testing. Total deaths in the region are 530. Positivity rate in the region is 20%. Niagara Regional Hospital admissions in the past 28 days, there's been 56 acute admissions. The ICU has gone down by 5, and there has been 0 in the ICU on ventilators. Ontario today, 1,218 new cases. Total deaths amount to 12,633. Ontario hospital admissions are at 1,486 acute. Of those, 206 are in ICU and 87 ICU on ventilators. Across the country, we've had just over 3.6 million total cases and total deaths amount to 38,288. Our Niagara Public Health Unit is currently working with 23 active outbreaks. And Pelham has experienced, as a town, a number of positive cases within the workforce, more so in the last couple of weeks than we've had in the last couple of years. So out of an abundance of caution, all employees are required to wear masks in the workplace unless they're working alone or in a vehicle alone. So, and that's the end of my report. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Any member of council have any questions or comments on the Chief's report? Not seeing any. If I could just, for a minute, Chief, that 20% positivity in the region, wow, that's definitely a wave, but it is nice to see that there are no patients on ventilators in the ICU. So a lot, obviously, of COVID out there, but the hospitalizations and the ventilators are obviously staying down where we like to see the figures. Any comments on that, Chief?
That's correct. The Niagara Public Health Unit is one of the highest as far as percentages of cases across the province. But you know, the severity has definitely lessened, but still can't stress the point of wearing masks and, you know, washing your hands, cleaning, and you know, being as safe as you possibly can. So the good thing about the region, as I'm around, is that everybody is pretty well wearing masks everywhere I go, and in the public, in the workplace, and that. So we're forging ahead, and I think that we're definitely on a positive track forward.
Excellent. Thanks again, Chief, for your report. Not seeing any further comments, I turn to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from B. Limburner, Fire Chief and Community Emergency Management Coordinator, for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any other discussion?
Well, thank you. Any other final comments or questions? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That brings you to your next presentation, which is from our CAO, Mr. David Cripps.
Okay, Mr. CAO, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council. I wouldn't say I have a report of substance this evening. I just thought I'd take this opportunity to suggest to you that I think going forward, we're going to condense these or collapse these into one presentation, either by the chief or myself, depending on whether it has more to do with public health data or more to do with the municipal corporation. But we're happily, while it is true that we certainly have more sickness amongst the staff than we've had at any point in time during the pandemic, Nevertheless, obviously, the trend line as far as serious illness is improving fairly dramatically, and the announcements are the pace of them is reduced and moderated dramatically. So accordingly, I think we'll collapse this into one report going forward, and that's really all I have for you this evening, subject to any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Any questions or comments on the CAO's report? Not seeing any. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from D. Cripps, Chief Administrative Officer, for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, if there are any other questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the report? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That brings you to your delegations. We do have a delegate here tonight. We do have Darlene McDowell from Family and Children's Services here. I will ask Ms. Leach just to bring her into the meeting if Council can give us a moment. Ms. Dowell is in the meeting now. I'd just like to remind our presenter that she is limited to a 10-minute presentation and that we do have a timer, and we'll be letting her know when she reaches 10 minutes. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McDowell, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for allowing us to present to your meeting, your council meeting this evening. I live in Pelham. I'm actually a neighbor of Councillor Wayne Olson. I've been at the FACTS Foundation, volunteer member of the foundation for the last 10 years. The past 4 as president, and now I'm past president this year. Tonight we have a really exciting initiative that we like to present to Pelham Council. We're partnering with Mark Bassiano of Mountain View Homes, and it's an exciting opportunity for our children, our FACTS children, vulnerable children, and children in care. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask for a proclamation, which I understand you may have received a copy of, and I'm going to be asking for your support. I'm also joined by Brett Sweeney, who is the FACTS Niagara Director of Communications and Community Engagement. Brett is going to be sharing his screen for the presentation tonight, and he's going to be walking through the presentation while I talk to the points. So we're looking at Mountain View Home, Lemonade. It's the Lemonade Day, Sunday, June the 12th. What we're planning on doing is it's an initiative with kids helping kids and having fun at the same time. It gets kids outside, it gets them engaged in the community, and we're looking at raising funds for our children in care and vulnerable youth in that are working with the Family and Children's Services. So on Sunday, June the 12th, teams of children will be setting up lemonade stands across the Niagara region, and they'll be asking for donations. So the presentation that we're going to be following will explain the logistics, and you'll enjoy a video as well. But basically, we're looking for support from the community, and we'll be doing these presentations throughout the whole Niagara region. Okay, next slide, please. This is a short video that I think you'll enjoy, and it'll explain everything.
So a couple years ago, my sister and I started a lemonade stand, and it was just all about we wanted to raise money, and then we got the idea that the money should go to sending a kid to camp.
Hi, I'm Caroline Paul-Grabier, President of the FACTS Foundation Board. Every day we work with the FACTS agency and the hard work that they do to bring great quality services and programs to the children across the Niagara region. For the past 2 years, COVID has taken a toll on every family, and no more so than the families that we serve at FACTS. Summer camps give great lifelong memories, but most importantly, it helps build social skills and self-confidence.
Hi, I'm Mark Bassiano with the Mountain View Building Group, and I'm honored and excited to be here today as a partner with Family and Children's Services to aid them in their crucial role as they protect children and strengthen families throughout our region. We're really excited to be part of this new initiative, which is really aimed to engage families, particularly young people, to get involved, create awareness in our communities, raise badly needed dollars, and to have some fun along the way. I really want to encourage you to get involved and do your part.
In 2022, our goal is to have 100 stands, and every stand to raise $1,000. It's a big, big goal, but we know we can do it. $100,000 is going to create 400 plus big smiles next summer. We hope you'll help us out.
On Sunday, June 12th, my sister and I will be hosting Mountain View Lemonade Stand. Please help us and proclaim Sunday, June 12th as Mountain View Lemonade Day.
I want to thank you in advance for all your support in something that truly will make a material difference in so many lives across the Niagara region. Please join us on Sunday, June 12th for Mountain View Lemonade Day. Cheers, guys.
So as the video is well laid out, and just to echo Carolyn and Mark, the stands will be set up, we're hoping, throughout the Niagara region. We're doing this presentation to all councils throughout the Niagara region. And what we're looking for is sending vulnerable children to camp in July and August. So these 2 years of pandemic have really impacted our families and our youth in so many ways. And they need to be outside and have positive experiences. And that's what we're hoping for. The foundation has supported children in summer camps throughout the years. Next slide, please, Brett. So it was mentioned in the video that 100 stands. What the sponsorship from our generous sponsor and others is providing the lemonade stand and the banners. We're going to be giving each team that sets up a stand for t-shirts and hats. They'll be getting concentrate, stickers, and cups. And every dollar that is raised by the kids at these lemonade stands will be sending other kids to camp. Next slide, Brett. So this is the strategy. The goal is to have this number of stands throughout the Niagara region. In Pelham, we're looking at 5 stands. We've got 1 committed already. Angela is a Pelham resident, and she's one of the contacts at Mountain View. So we're looking for more coverage in the Pelham area. Basically, the children can sign up teams, or they can sign up families, set up a stand in their community, in their neighborhood, and online with the Family and Children's Services website, you'll be able to see where the teams are and be able to support them online or by visiting their lemonade stand. So what we're asking council for tonight is, our call to action is please proclaim Sunday, June the 12th, Mountain View Lemonade Day. Please help us promote the day. And we're asking for participation from all in supporting the kids and the youth in the day. So the support is proclaim Sunday, June the 12th, Mountain View Lemonade Day. Encourage the community through any of the social media through Pelham. And of course, you can register or you can locate a lemonade stand in your area just by accessing the Facts Niagara Foundation website. And I think that's the last screen. Just wanted to thank everybody for your attention and for your participation. And are there any questions?
Excellent. Thank you for that presentation, Ms. McDowell. A great initiative for presenting an opportunity to send vulnerable kids to camp. Excellent. I'm sure the region's communities will endorse this initiative. Questions I see, Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. McDowell, and thank you for coming tonight. You're very welcome with the ideas like this. I think Mountain View and the Family and Children's Aid Services, they should be congratulated for this kind of endeavor. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I hope that the town, we can find some real prominent spots for you to operate from the 5 locations here, because if possible, any place that people can see us and make sure that they get done. There's something very wholesome about kids helping kids, and I will be endorsing this for sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. This is such a great initiative. I thank Facts for doing this, and I thank Mark and his Mountain View team for supporting this initiative. I'm looking forward to visiting these stands in the community. I guess my comment would be, and whether it's premature or not, maybe to staff, and I don't know if we have our marketing people on here, but I'd like to see some support by the town with respect to this initiative, in particular letting the community know where these stands are located so we can really get behind it and make it successful. So just don't have to answer that question, but I'm looking to staff to fully support this initiative. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wink. Perhaps I will ask before I go to you, Councillor Corr, I will ask the CAO, is this something that we will be able to put on the town website, you think, Mr. CAO?
Oh, absolutely. Moreover, I think we have some excellent premier real estate. The MCC gets thousands of people through it daily. It would be almost a criminal tragedy if we didn't have at least one stand there. Town hall in the park, maybe either the library or the park in Fenwick. We have some really prominent locations, and we'd be happy to take direction from council. But we have good real estate, and we have a very professional corporate communications department, and I'm sure we'd be happy to devote some time, space, and effort in support of SANE.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mr. CAO. Councillor Corr?
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation, and like my fellow councilors, a great initiative by Mark and his team, and also the team from Facts. The one question I have, are we still looking for 4 stands or volunteers to man those stands? And how do kids or people get involved or ask their sons to sign up for these stands?
If I could, and I might ask Brett if he could just jump in just to add to it. There is a sign up on the Niagara Foundation website. It's on the presentation that you received. So the Niagara Family and Children's Services Foundation website shows the lemonade stands, how you join the team, and how you get support from people like your family and your friends that can't come and visit your stand in your neighborhood. They can go online and donate money directly to your team. So it's all done on the website, Ron and council members. Is there anything that you could add, Brett, just to better explain this?
I think you've done a great job, Darlene. Yes, the website is the best place to start with that. So we're asking everyone to sign up in teams. So it could be perhaps a whole street wants to join as one single team. So one person would sign up and the others would join that team, and they all work together to support that day and make a success. So I would say to anyone interested, have a look at the website, think about signing up. It's a fantastic event. We are so thrilled for all the supportive comments we've heard so far and appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from any council member? Councilor Corr.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I know someone would be happy, very happy to help you with any ice or any other items you need. Just get in touch with me and I'll pass you on to that individual. Again, it's a great cause, and when it comes to kids helping kids, it's an awesome idea, and Mountain View should be proud of themselves.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Corr. Any other comments or questions to the presenters? Not seeing any. I believe, Darlene, that you can expect a great participation from this town, and we will do everything to make this initiative a success for the children involved. And again, thank you for presenting to council.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you so much again for your time and for allowing us to participate in your meeting tonight. And looking forward to a little bit of friendly competition between maybe some of the towns in the area. So thank you so much again, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Brett.
And we will turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council received the delegation from Family and Children's Services Niagara regarding the proclamation of Mountain View Lemonade Day for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any further discussion, I'll just remind Council that the actual consideration of the proclamation is next.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the presentation then, Council? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. This vote begins with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Corr.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That does bring you to your next item on the agenda, and that is the Family and Children's Services of Niagara, June 12th, 2022, Mountain View Lemonade Day for Proclamation. And I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Corr, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive a request from Family and Children's Services with respect to Mountain View Lemonade Day, and that the Corporation of the Town of Pelham hereby proclaim June 12th, 2022 as Mountain View Lemonade Day. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we go on this debate on this motion, Councillor Corr, you put the motion forward. Any additional comments you'd like to make?
No, I think we said it all. And again, it's a great idea from Mountain View, and also my friends at FACS. I know there's a lot of board members that visit me on a regular basis. So it's a great event, and we should support it 100%.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Corr. Councillor Hahn, you seconded the motion. Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a fantastic initiative, and congratulations for, first of all, coming up with the idea, and second of all, for taking it to all the municipalities. I think it's fantastic, and I expect and I hope to see it annually. So good on you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, questions, statements on the proclamation motion ahead of us? I see none, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. This vote begins with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. I just asked Ms. Leach to take our presenters out of the meeting. We thank them for attending.
Okay. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. 1 SC-03/2022, Special Council Meeting, April 4th, 2022. And 2 RC-07/2022, Regular Meeting of Council, April 4th, 2022. To you, Mr. Mayor, to call for any errors or omissions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does any member of council have any errors or omissions that they have spotted in these minutes? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. To you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to item 7 on the agenda. This is the request to lift consent agenda items for separate consideration. If any members of council wish to lift an item, now would be the time. If a council member wishes just to simply discuss the item on the consent agenda, lifting is not required. To you, Mr. Mayor, I just ask if there's any members of council who wish to lift any items.
Thank you. Council, is there any member that would like to lift a consent agenda item? I see Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to lift the Ontario Must Build It Right the First Time letter from Waterloo.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors like to lift any items? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just noting that as item 8.5.1, lifted by Councillor Olson. I have so noted. That does bring us to the rest of the consent agenda. Did you want me to list as categories for council to discuss?
Yes, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The first item is staff reports for information or action.
On those consent agendas, does any councillor have a motion or item to lift? I see Councillor Hildebrandt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not lifting any, but I just want to make a comment on one item under 8.3.4. The EMS Solutions, which is the energy savings part for the town hall. It's supposed to be completed at the end of April, which is great. And the other comment has to do with current bids and tenders. I understand that the new system we're going to be, software system, is going to enhance the system and make it easier and more detailed and comprehensive for us. Is it still on target to the Director of Corporate Services to be done before the end of this term?
Who would you go to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Councillor Hildebrand, are you referring to the upgrade to the e-solutions, the bids and tenders?
Correct.
Yes, yes, you are correct. It will be done before the end of this term. We're just, I think it will be done within the next couple months.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kaur.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a comment on 8.3.6. and it's dealing with this civic square design. I don't, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but was that part of the budget, and what is the cost of that project to the treasurer?
To the treasurer, please, Ms. Quinlan Murphy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the part that the portion of the budget pertaining to the Civic Square was just the study right now, the design. I'm going to pass it over to the Director of Community Planning and Development, who is responsible for that project.
Okay, Ms. Weens, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. That project was approved through the 2020 budget. And we did the RFP last fall, and it was awarded before the end of last year. And so the project is underway. The budget is $20,000.
Councillor?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the treasurer, what's the total cost of that project if we go ahead with it?
Let's go back. I think we have to go back to Director of Planning, Ms. Weens.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, through you, if I may, so the first phase of this project is to come up with the concepts and a preferred concept. And once that is known, then there will need to be approval to go to the next phase, which would be preparing the detailed engineering drawings and then the construction cost estimates. So that piece will be more expensive. And at this point in time, I can't answer what that amount will be. That too will have to be approved through the next budget process.
Councillor Corr?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items to be discussed in this range? Go to Councillor Wink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Recreation and Wellness. It wasn't in your report, but every time I drive down Rice Road, I look to the left and see the park and Riverview Estates and the fencing around that park. Can you provide us with an estimate of when that will be completed and when it will be open for public use?
Ms. Perhaps Mr. CAO. Ms. Van Ravensby is on holidays, so we will turn to Mr. CAO.
It's time for me to introduce council to those who don't know. Brian Secord was promoted last year and is our supervisor out at RCW. He may or may not be able to answer the question, and we'll certainly give him the opportunity to do so. But if not, that's A-OK.
Okay, Mr. Secord.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I think we're waiting on a floor, to be honest, to be laid before the closure of that project. I think the person to ask in here would be probably Jason Marr if he's around, but I don't exactly know a time frame. We haven't got that yet.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to the Director of Public Works, Mr. Marr.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I can provide a little bit more information on that. I know we are waiting for materials. The contractor's waiting for materials to finish off that project, and we at this point in time, we don't have any definitive timeline on when they're going to be in to finish that. But we will look into that, and we can forward an email to council and give an update to council with respect to the schedule for that project.
Thank you.
I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Wink.
No, that's great. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Corr, I believe I saw your hand again.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to make a comment on 8.3.8, and it's dealing with a shout out to Violet Steingard. For over 22 years, she watched over our loved ones, which is our kids, crossing the street on Hayes, and also being a vital part of the AK Wig School. We're going to miss her. I know she helped my two boys cross the street on a regular basis. I think one of them was my youngest one was a little devil, she always used to tell me, but we're going to miss her, and I hope she enjoys her retirement with Ken, and she's a well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor, for that shout out. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on these agenda items before us right now in this category? Okay, not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Sorry, the next category is action correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Any on the action correspondence? I know before I go to council, I will go to one. I hope this is known as an action correspondence, and that is 8.3.2, and that is the special permit application for the Tulip Farm, which will be taking place at the corner of Balfour and Highway 20. I know we had the farm last year on Memorial Drive. I believe it's slated to be somewhat a bigger event this year. Perhaps the Director of Planning have all the permits being given out at this date or not? Could you comment on that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. The report is recommending approval of the special occasion permit. So if council was to approve or endorse this report, the clerk will be issuing the special occasion permit. There are some conditions associated with that permit with respect to matters relating to food trucks and their inspection requirements and so forth. So those are things that are in hand with the applicant. They're well aware of those things and they're going through the process to deal with those conditions. So we expect that they will be open April 30th, I believe, is when they want to start to be open.
Yes, I thank you for that. I believe you're right. The beginning is April 30th. Excellent. So everything looks to be falling in line for that opening date, and it'll be quite an event for the town if they do have good weather and some heat units to bring the tulips to their growth rate. Okay, I saw some other hands up. Any Councillor Holson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 8.4.4, the request for bylaw exemption, Pelham Tree Advocates. I believe that the plan is for Saturday, starting at 1 o'clock, speakers and entertainment plus an indigenous drum circle, would be the proper thing to say, at the Peace Park, and this is going to be the first event of its kind, helped in right in our town, and these are folks that are calling for action on the on climate, and where I come from, leadership comes from action, and I want to totally support this endeavor by PATH, our new organization in the town of Pelham.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions on any of the agenda items? I have one myself remaining, and that is the 8.4.3. Mr. CAO and I have discussed this. It is the day of mourning from the, I believe it's the Niagara Labour Council. They want us, I believe, to raise a flag. It's to commemorate the deaths of all workers or injuries that workers get on the job. Mr. CAO, you had indicated to me that you were going to be asking area CAOs. As council knows, we are flying the Ukrainian flag right now because of that catastrophe happening to that country. Mr. CAO, any comments on this issue?
Yes, Your Worship. In consultation with our colleagues around Niagara, it seems that the generally agreed upon approach is to lower flags to half-mast as per request, but we'll probably keep flying the Ukrainian flag. So rather than put up a labor flag per se, in recognition of the loss of life, and there was a municipal worker killed somewhere around Kingston a month ago, 3 weeks ago, something in that ballpark. And obviously, of course, unfortunately, on the job injuries happen more frequently than that. So to recognize the ongoing issue, we will lower flags. The protocol would be to lower the flags half-mast for the day, but I think we'll keep the current ones that are flying.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
If you will.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. CAO. Any other comments on any of these agenda items? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does bring you to the information correspondence items.
Okay, thank you. Then any of those that council would like to comment on? And Councillor Olson.
Yes, I would like to comment on 8.5.1. It's the Ontario must build it right the first time. This is a letter from the city of Waterloo that was distributed, and essentially says that we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by the year 2030 if we're going to have any hope at all of reaching a proper level of emissions within the next by 2050. We have to take some action fast, and this is an attempt to bring the National Building Code in line with harmonize the National Building Code to include this in the Ontario Building Code to require different type or improved types, enhanced types of environmental measures in our new buildings. Buildings account for approximately 30% of all the greenhouse gases, and we basically have to go on a greenhouse gas carbon diet before very long, or we'll be faced with an emergency. And that's what the purpose of this letter is to send it on to the Prime Minister and the Ontario government and our local municipalities.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Excellent. Any other comments, questions? I see none. Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. One of the concerns I have with that memo from Waterloo is that they're asking for the province of Ontario to provide authority to municipalities to adopt a specific higher energy performance tier than the Ontario Building Code. In my past life, in my engineering days, Ontario and Canada was the most difficult place to practice engineering, building plants, because of all the different municipalities having different codes than the provinces and the federal governments. Imposing that kind of option, having municipalities, makes it very difficult for engineers running big projects to try and get things right the first time through. And then you're trying to register these projects with municipalities, not realizing that they have different standards or different versions of what's happening. So that is a problem for me with endorsing this particular letter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Not seen any. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. That brings you to your final category of committee minutes for information.
Thank you. Any comments on the committee minutes? I would think that would be omissions or errors. Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the April 19th, 2022 Council agenda be received, and the recommendations contained therein be approved, save and accept item 8.5.1. To Mr. Mayor for any discussion.
Okay, council, any discussion on these items? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote begins with Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That does bring you to your items for separate consideration. Item number 8.5.1 was lifted from Councillor Olson, and that is the Ontario Must Build It Right the first time. The original motion put forth by Councillor Olson and Councillor Wink is, be it resolved that Council receive correspondence from the City of Waterloo regarding Ontario Must Build It Right the first time for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this resolution put forward? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Olson did lift this. Just wondering if you had any further comments you wanted to make, or perhaps any amendments?
Okay,
Yes, I wasn't sure myself what time to make that a proposed amendment. But Mr. Mayor, I would propose that the motion be amended to include, and that the council of the corporation of the town of Pelham endorse and support the resolution from the City of Waterloo regarding Ontario Must Build It Right the first time, and that the town clerk is hereby directed to circulate a copy of this resolution to the Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, local MPs and MPPs, City of Waterloo, and local area clerks.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be looking for a seconder.
Okay, is there a seconder on this resolution? And Councillor Wink will second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have the movers, Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Wink. Council can discuss the amendment.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment before us? Councillor Hildebrand.
As I stated before, I have no problem with the general letter. I do have a serious problem with the individual municipalities being able to adopt specific higher performances than the Ontario Building Code. The Ontario Building Code governs what happens in the province of Ontario. Having municipalities adopt their own codes and standards makes life very difficult for those individuals trying to build in the province of Ontario. Therefore, I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this before us? Councillor Kaur, did I see your hand? Yes, I did. Councillor Kaur?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the clerk. So we're voting on the motion, and the original information was this for us to accept the information. Am I clear on that?
Madam Clerk?
Yes. You are clear. The original motion was simply to receive for information. Councillor Olson is made an amendment to support and endorse, which means council would support and endorse, and then the town clerk would circulate those listed. So that's what you're voting on now, is that amendment.
Councillor Kaur?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I see Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councillor Hildebrandt. That's what the Ontario Building Code is a standard code for the whole province. If you have a contractor who's working in various municipalities, that, you know, he could be doing what's right in one municipality, and he could drive 10 minutes away to be working on a house in another municipality, and there'd be different standards. We need a standard building code for the whole province. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor, I don't see any other councillor, so I'll go back to Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, it strikes me that surely the convenience of the contractors and the other points raised fall behind the climate change imperative that we have facing us, and we should be able to set a higher standard, nothing lower than what is called for by the Ontario Building Code. We should be free to have zero emissions on every one of our buildings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any, Councillor Stewart, do I see your hand? Yes?
Yes, further to what Councillor Olson just stated, rather than working at something like this piecemeal, maybe it's time for the municipalities to band together to go after the province to enact a building code that addresses those needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stewart, for those comments. Okay, one last time, Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Most of the motion, the Waterloo motion, was written by 50 by 30 in consultation with over 500 municipalities across the province or across the country. This is the group that we have been seeing emails from 50 by 30. We get a weekly email from them, and they've been promoting exactly this in our community. So I just point that out to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments before we call the vote? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. This is for the amendment, and the vote begins with Councillor Hildebrandt.
No.
Councillor Kaur.
No.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
No.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That amendment is defeated. It does bring you back to the original main motion. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, on the main motion on this item, any, well, obviously without the amendment, any other comments, questions? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For this, I will be using the original mover and seconder, and I will start the vote again with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. To you, Mr. Mayor, that brings you to staff reports. Your first staff report is the nomination of Pelham elected officials to Regional Transit Commission, and I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2022-0100, nomination of Pelham elected official to Regional Transit Commission. And further, be it resolved that Council recommend blank to represent the town of Pelham on the Transitional Niagara Transit Commission Board for an appointment ending January 31st, 2023. To you, Mr. Mayor, this is the motion as put forward in the recommendation report, and Council is looked to provide an amendment to indicate whom would be sitting on that board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I see Councillor Hildebrandt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it'd be an honor for us to nominate Councillor Olson as our representative. He showed initiative, he's very interested, and we've talked, and he's the right man for the job, in my view. So I would like to make a motion to recommend Councillor Olson for that position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I believe we need a seconder. Councillor Wink?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. With this motion before us, is there any further discussion on this? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. So the motion before us is...
Oh, I see, wait, I see Councillor Wink. Councillor Wink?
Yes. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Olson.
Oh.
Are you willing to
Yes.
accept this?
He's got a good point. Councillor Olson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd be delighted to and happy to represent the town. I think this is going to be something that changes a lot of lives for people, and I'd be very happy to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for raising that, Councillor Wink. Back to the Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an amendment that the motion be amended to include Councillor Olson within that second paragraph. To you, Mr. Mayor, this vote begins with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Counselor Wink,
Yes.
Counselor Hahn,
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That does bring you to your main motion as amended, with Counselor Olson's name within that. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any further discussion.
Thank you. Back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. I will use the same mover and seconder from the amendment, and this vote begins with Counselor Olson,
Yes.
Counselor Stewart,
Yes.
Counselor Wink,
Yes.
Counselor Hahn,
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Counselor Kaur,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to our next item, which was the addendum. And I do have a motion which is put forth by Counselor Olson, seconded by Counselor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that Council receive the memo re-amendment to Park Lane Water Main Installation Project Budget 2022-0105 for information to Mr. Mayor for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps before we go to council for discussion, we'll go to the Director of Public Works. Mr. Marr, any comments to the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the amendment, simply it's an add-on to the report that's following as part of the next agenda item. This was information that was received by staff following the publication of the agenda. So this amendment is simply amending what the cost overruns will be for that particular project, which is in the next report.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on this item? Not seeing any. Clerk, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. This vote begins with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. To Mr. Mayor, that does bring you to your next item. We do have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2022-0096, update to Park Lane Water Main Replacement Project budget for information, and that Council approve the budget increase of $79,386 to the capital project WTR 06-21 water main extension to service splash pad for MSSP, and that Council direct this to be funded from the Canada Community Building Fund, formerly known as Federal Tax Gas. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have received an amendment being put forward by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt, that the motion be amended to strike paragraph 2 and insert, and that Council approve the budget increase of $102,386 to capital project WTR 06-21 water main extension to service the splash pad for MSSP, and that is in line with the memo that you've just received for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, council discussion on this amendment. Is there any comments or questions? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Excuse me, Councillor Hildebrandt has his hand up.
Oh, my apologies. I did not see that.
Councillor Hildebrandt?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure exactly what is the amendment we're voting on. Are we voting to receive the complete report without even further discussion?
Madam Clerk?
No, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. This amendment is to swap out the second paragraph that had the incorrect financial information that was reported to council in the previous memo. So to take out roughly $79,000 and to put in the figure of $102,386.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Continue on, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I'll continue on with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart. I believe I called on Councillor Stewart and Councillor
Oh,
Winkelried.
I'm
I
sorry.
made sure that I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Counselor.
Can I vote twice?
I'm seeing in the affirmative, yes. Thank you. That does then carry, and that brings you to your main motion as amended for you, Mr. Mayor, to discuss.
Excellent. Now on this main motion, is there any comments or questions from Council? Councillor Hildebrand.
Here it is, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Public Works. Yes, I have quite a few questions, but I'll limit my first to about 3 questions. Because number one I have is, what is the plan and schedule for material removal? And second question is, since the excavated material was just placed on an existing bank on the north side of the road, how do you know what existed before and what the excavated soil for the project is? Because it was just placed on the bank on an existing soil pile. So you got soil mixed with soil, and since the third question is, since the excavated material has been there for a few months and it's been identified that it has to get off site, how are we going to know that the rest of the bank is clear from contamination? So those are my first 3 questions, because I think it's critical that we get this material out of there as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. To the Director of Public Works, Mr. Marr.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. In discussions with the contractor, we're trying to get that material moved off site this week. In fact, we have received a contract from Walker Industries to take the material to a licensed landfill site. So the idea is that based on council approval tonight, we will execute that agreement and instruct the contractor to remove that material. And we're hoping to get that off site, if not this week, by April 25th. When the material was placed at the end of the asphalt area there, at the bottom of the driveway, the contractor was instructed to place silt fence around that material so that they wouldn't have the transmission of the silt off of that area. To answer your question with respect to how we know if the contaminated material, or what level we will remove the material to, and how we would tell if there is contaminated material present in the substrate, we'll have the contractor remove down to the existing grade. We don't anticipate conducting any further tests on the material or the existing material, but the area will be inspected visually, and then it will be dressed with topsoil and restored with either seed or sod, depending on the condition of the underlying substrate.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Thank you very much. What I've noticed, because I've been down there many times, about a month ago it started with a resident's complaint to me, and then I got another resident's complaint last week. He's concerned that we're just pushing stuff over the bank. And the other thing I noticed is I went back 3 days later after my first visit, and more stuff had arrived. So it seems as though once you get a dump pile, it's a convenient place for people to dump stuff. And I don't know who's dumping this stuff, but I've got pictures of the additional material that arrived. So the quicker we can get this stuff out of here, the better. Thanks. I'll let the other councilors ask questions before I come with my next speech. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hildebrand. Any further comments, Mr. Marr? No.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of any other contractors or people dumping in that area. Like I said, we've secured the back side of it with silt fence coming into the bank area. So we're satisfied that the silt material won't transmit down the slope. We'll restore it back to what it usually we restore it to existing or better conditions. And definitely agree with Councillor Hildebrand. We would like to get that material removed as soon as possible. So we'll be working to do so.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Councillor Corr.
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor, to the director. When does the street sweeping machines dump their debris? They usually dump it in that area, do they not?
Mr. Mark?
Mr. Mayor, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. That is an area that we use to stockpile sweeping materials prior to disposal, as well as excess snow piles. We also use that as a storage area as well. That sweeping operation is scheduled to start the end of April. In fact, that operation is set to begin on April 25th, and that's why I identified that date as the date for the existing material to be removed off site.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions on the report? If I may, but before I go back to Council, Mr. Marr, I was down at the Stewart Street Park myself on during the weekend, and I noticed the pumping station, of course, was the region responsibility, and there does seem to be not significant, but erosion problems still there. Do you know if the region will be coming? Has the region finished their rehabilitation of the area, and if they have, could we get them to come back and take a secondary, a last look at some of the erosion that's happening alongside the roadway down to the pumping station, and also right at the bottom of the pumping station there seems to be the beginnings of erosion. Can you comment on where the region is on that project?
Yes, so to you, Mr. Mayor, we have been in contact with the region. The short answer is no. The region's contract is not complete. There will be further restoration required there, as well as improvements to that access road. My understanding is that that access road will be paved as well. And I know that in discussions with the manager of Public Works, the region has taken efforts to try to reduce and control the amount of runoff from our parking lot, which comes down that slope. So you'll identify that there's some riprap material that is used to divert that water to a catch basin outlet, and then controlled outlet to the original outlet that's further to the north of the pumping station. But there is erosion there. We will be addressing that with the region. The contract is not complete. There's further restoration work to do there, and I'll make sure that we pass along the information to have it restored properly.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I must say that the job they've done on the south side of the roadway, where the water is coming off the parking lot and going down their individual channels there, they have done a great job filling that in with riprap and eliminating the erosion problem. I see Councillor Hahn.
Yes, to the Mayor, to the Director of Public Works. Do we have any other projects that have issues with regards to any materials that need to get off site or contamination, anything like that?
To the Director, please.
To you, Mr. Mayor. So there is a new excess soils regulation that's coming into effect under the Environmental Protection Act. And that's part of the reason why the material is stored there in the first place. That was supposed to be in effect as of January 2022. There is a motion on the table to extend that to January of 2023. But what this new regulation is going to do is it basically controls the amount of excess soil that's removed off site, where it's deposited. There's significant testing and geotechnical work to do ahead of time by the owner to ensure that the material is classified properly and taken to the correct disposal site. Obviously there'll be a big push. It'll change our projects. We'll be looking to reuse as many materials as we can on site for sure. So that's going to change the way we design and look at projects for sure, is try to minimize the amount of material coming off the site. So the long and short of it is it will impact budget with respect to material testing and the handling of that material. The engineering department is currently working on a report with respect to the information behind this new legislation for council's consideration and information. And we're looking to bring that to council sometime in May, early June of this year. So that is coming to council for information.
Councillor?
Thank you. So further to that then, with regards to the actual splash pad at the park then, is there going to be any foreseeable issues there with where the digging will be for that?
To the director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't comment specifically on that project at this time. I don't have information to comment on it. So obviously, moving forward in projects as of shovel in the ground of 2023, it will definitely impact any excavation work that's being performed on municipal property, and it'll increase costs for the engineering testing side of things before the project starts, and it's going to increase the costs required for handling and disposal of that material.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just for clarification, Director, it's only when you remove the soil from the site that that's the only. If you leave the soil on the site, you're okay with that. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to be quite honest, that's a good question, and that's something that we'll provide as part of our information report of how it affects the projects. My understanding is that if the material that's being removed meets certain requirements and can stay on site, then that's not an issue. And the preference is by the province to keep that material on site to limit the amount of soil that's coming off of projects.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. Any other questions from any other councillors? I see Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the director. I've got concerns about the locates that were done on that property. It says that some of the locates were significantly inaccurate, and then there were some things that were underground that they weren't aware of at all. I'm wondering who did the locates? Were they done by the town or the contractor, or the call before you dig service? And if the additional cost could be sent off to the people who did the inaccurate locates.
To the director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the answer is yes to everybody. The town locates our sanitary system and our water system. PBS will locate the various utilities like Bell Hydro Gas. And then the region also has infrastructure in the ground in this location. So the answer is, when you get locates on a job and you get locates for design work, the information that you're going to be able to provide to the contractor is only as good as the information that you have. In this particular case, there was obstructions in the way that weren't identified on the contract drawings, and when that happens, unfortunately, it ends up slowing the progress of the work and causes delays of the contractor. So I don't think there'd be an opportunity to go back after the locate company specifically on this issue to answer your question.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions, comments? We turn to Councillor Hildebrand.
I'd just like to piggyback on Councillor Hahn's comments. We all know that where the splash pad area is was the old arena was. And the last stage of the old arena had the refrigeration plant, the cooling tower, all the equipment, plus underneath the asphalt was where all the piping was. I'm not so sure that material is going to be an easy removal issue if all that stuff is still sitting underground. Just a comment. The next question is, I understand the new requirements. With the new requirements, what I don't understand is the project, from what I can see from top of ground, and I don't know this for a fact, but visually, from the Highway 20 to the parking lot the trench was dug. And I know they were digging at the top of the hill. I know that. And there's no indication that the parking lot or any of that area was dug because there's no lines, no inspection ports or anything. So that had to be drilled. So the question is, why wasn't the whole project drilled? And the next question relates to the mayor's comment with regards to the Niagara Region pumping station. You said the region is responsible. What I don't understand is they've got a diesel generator down there with a diesel fuel tank, which to me leads to a significant risk of contamination, and they've got no containment. I don't know why they didn't go to a gas-powered, we got natural gas down there. Why didn't you use natural gas? And how is this acceptable? Like, if you're a farmer, you have to put stuff around your tanks. You can't even have a tank without containment. So how is the region able to get around containment? I just don't get it. Can you respond to that?
Any comments on those observations to the director?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So working backwards, with respect to the region, I can't comment specifically on the design of their project. That is definitely something that we will take away. We will ask the region what measures they have in place with respect to containing a diesel fuel leak, and we will report back to council. I will make sure that I get that information from council. Second, boring versus open trench. The cost for the boring operation is about double of the open trench excavation. So basically from the Highway 20 end down to almost in front of the Park Lane storage building was all open cut. To perform an open cut operation, the way the original contract was shown, to come down through the parking lot, and in order to avoid trenching through a fairly new and in good shape parking lot, the idea was to come down between the skate park and the municipal sidewalk that's adjacent to it. The amount of disruption and damage that would have occurred to that infrastructure was in the field was deemed significant. So it was opted at that point to go with a directional bore method for the 85 meters to get it from the bottom of the hill over to the pool house. But if we were to do the whole project with the directional bore method, yes, you would save with material costs, but the additional cost to bore that one section would probably be somewhere in the order of $60,000. So whenever you're able to open cut, it's usually the preferred method of installation, and boring is used for situations when you don't want to disrupt the surface or there's certain reasons why that's not possible.
Okay, thank you, Director. Councilor Hildebrand?
Well, my comment would be this. When you're having to open cut, you're going to have to handle this soil. And here we are handling it twice. Not only that, if you haven't tested ahead of time and you've got contaminated soil, you know you have to go off site. I don't know, then it has to be a cost analysis to see what the right way to do it is, obviously. Because obviously, all these guys are doing a lot of boring because they don't even want to get into these ponds. If you start getting into very contaminated soil, I would think boring would be the only way to go. Just my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Councilor Hildebrand. Any other comments, questions on this report? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That brings you to your next item on the agenda, and I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2022-95 for information as it pertains to file numbers 26 CD 19-04 2021 and AM-01 2021, and that Council directs planning staff to prepare the bylaw for approval of the zoning bylaw amendment for Council's consideration, and that Council approves the draft plan of condominium attached as Appendix A, subject to the conditions in Appendix B. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this item? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Your next item on the agenda, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2022-0089 Staff Recognition Policy for information, and that Council repeal the Recognition of Staff 25 Years of Service Policy S201-01 and replace with the Employee Recognition Policy S100-05. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. On this motion, any questions, comments from staff or from council? Sorry. Councilor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support this. Employee recognition is extremely important. People need to be made feel wanted and important. Having recognition policy that only recognizes people that have been there for 25 years is antiquated. And I know this is something that my former employer introduced years and years and years ago. So I think this is really important for our staff to have this.
Thank you, Councilor Wink. I also have talked to several business owners, and they actually couldn't believe that we hadn't moved in this direction somewhat sooner. So, like yourself, I will be endorsing this report. Any other? I see Councillor Hahn.
Through the mayor, a question to the CAO. With regards to the gift card, is the gift card from a Pelham business, or where is it just random, or hopefully it's from a Pelham business to support businesses here?
Mr. CAO?
Ideally, they'll be Pelham bucks.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. That brings you to your next item on the agenda. And I do have a motion which is being put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2022-0091 Chief Administrative Officer Compensation Adjustment for Elected Officials for information, and that Council approve an adjustment to compensation for councillors of $4,700 and an adjustment of $13,000 for the position of mayor effective November 15, 2022, which is the first day of the next term of office. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any discussion from any member of council on this motion before us? I see Councilor Hildebrandt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's amazing how difficult something so easy should be once you start getting questions about your rationale and your purpose for doing this. You know, you think you have your decision made until you get questions of why are you doing this? And basically the question came down to, was I doing it for community service, and would I do it without even getting paid? Well, the answer to that question is absolutely yes, because the things as a resident I couldn't achieve was being involved in getting to people in positions that could make a difference. So that's why I ran for council. I obviously won't be supporting giving myself a raise. That's the problem I've got. I can't give myself a raise. So as far as it seems, that's where I am now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Councillor Hildebrand. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Hildebrand, but my take on it is that when this council took office, we made the decision that we would not take a raise for, for the reasons that we were in such financial difficulties, that it showed that, our concern and our willingness to not take the raise and to help get the town back on track. So along with that, I believe it's up to the next council to choose for themselves whether or not they will take a raise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stewart. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vote in favor of it because it's not going to change my intents or my purposes in being here, but I'm hopeful that it might be the difference between somebody who might not be able to come to the table and put their name forward, for them to be able to make the commitment to community service and run in the next election. So that's why I'm voting for it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Olson. Perhaps, Mr. CAO, I know you reluctant to speak on this. If you could perhaps reiterate how you came to the raises proposed, perhaps.
Well, this analysis was done maybe not more than, about a year ago, better part of a year ago, last calendar year. And your compensation is well below minimum wage. And if we changed the terms of your employment and made it hourly, we'd be forced to give you a raise because we'd be breaking the law. You get paid less than someone that gets paid to pump gas or sell donuts. So that's where we're at. With all due respect, your compensation doesn't reflect the values of this corporation or this community. And I think it needs to be higher. That said, this motion is not you giving yourselves a raise. It's fixing the compensation question for the next council. If for any of you to serve on that next council, you're going to have to earn that privilege by successfully fighting an election. So no one is guaranteed any of these dollars. This thing you're being asked to do tonight is the most difficult thing any elected official ever gets asked. Because people are quick to heap scorn. It's an excellent equity initiative. There's plenty of empirical evidence that suggests if we just improve the compensation a little bit, all of a sudden, this becomes a job that's possible for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, more realistic. For those who have to earn, still have to pay a mortgage, have to support young families, etc. So I ask you to do it for those reasons. I appreciate, and certainly this wasn't written to suggest or imply, none of you asked or directed my office to write this report. Not one of you has indicated a desire for personal enrichment. Be happy to testify to that fact. Nevertheless, this report is before you to try to fix a systematic problem. This council has made so many difficult decisions. It's also the second hardest thing we ask you to do is raise taxes. Frankly, you've been able to do that as well. We just asked that you structurally fix this. $4,000 for 6 of you, your positions, is not a huge amount. And I suspect, given the numbers most of you work, the hours most of you work, you'd still fall below minimum wage, but at least it'd be in the ballpark of minimum wage. And so really it fixes a structural thing. This is not for any of you. It might be for some of you, but it will only be for you if you fight another election and win it. So that's the thing in between, which is why this is the appropriate time. And also, if we pass it now, if you pass this tonight, then those who are considering, we're at the end of the, shortly, Ms. Wilford is deeply involved in the run for municipal governance night. I've fumbled the exact title of that night, but it is coming up. And this would be something people could see what the actual number was, and it might affect someone's decision to run. So really, it's extremely open-minded of you to do this because it might actually increase the number of challengers. For those who run it's arguably it's adverse in interest for you. At any rate, we will of course respect your wishes, but this is an opportunity to fix something that's structurally wrong. No one should work for less than minimum wage, which you do, and it may help other people. And for those reasons, the report has been written, and for no other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Councilor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate what Mr. Cribbs is saying and trying to do for the council. It is a tough decision. Council has to realize that this particular council is essentially earning 25% less than the previous council because of the elimination of a tax break that the federal government gave probably provincial gave elected officials prior to us getting in. I hesitate doing this, but I agree that something should be done for next council. I'm not sure if we should be going to that large of an increase at this point in time. If you look at where we are compared to other municipalities, if we got to the median, it's kind of a halfway point. I'm not sure where we sit as far as our actual compensation compared to each community, but we've got to be very close to the bottom at this point in time. I would support something halfway in between and go to the median, and I think that's that compromise at this point.
Councillor, do you want to put forth an amendment at this time?
Sure. Why don't we put an amendment that any increases would be limited to the median of just trying to see of the 2021 market summary excluding the region.
Okay, thank you. And would any figures on that, Councilor Wink? I see you're looking at.
Well, the numbers are there. So.
Oh, I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Yeah, sorry. That would move the mayor from 35,576 to 45,702, and it would move councilors from 16,306 to 18,272. So that's a 12% increase.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Is there a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Olson, you will second it?
I will, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wink.
And just to reiterate the CAO's comments, this is not for us. This is not for these individuals that are here. It's for the next elected council. So we're not giving ourselves a raise.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's not for us, and it's. I think it's to give encouragement to somebody else who might consider running. It's also an opportunity for us to do something to start off the next council without having to make some kind of a motion like this and start off on the wrong foot. We're going to be delivering a town to the next council that's much improved in so many ways in terms of services and recreation. And I think we should be pleased with that and proud of that. And I don't want to see anything happen that besmirches that, because I want to see them start off on the right foot.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Councillor. I will definitely be supporting this amendment. As we all know, as Councillor Wink has pointed out, the first thing this council did when we took office was to give ourselves a 25% pay cut. And we said we weren't in it for the money. We gave ourselves a cut. The last council left us in a very difficult position. We handled it the way we had to, and now we're trying to leave it so that the next council doesn't have to deal with this difficult position. So I will support that amendment. Like you say, it's not for us. It's for the next council coming ahead of us or coming after us. And I will support Councillor Wink's amendment. Any other comments or questions on this amendment? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. You know, last week I would have said okay and I would have been voted for it. But once I started getting questioned, that's when I knew that I was going to be in it for nothing. So that's my vote.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Hahn.
Through the mayor, you know, you look at all the increases generally across the board, and everything you do, whether it's gas, whether you're building a home, we've raised taxes, we've raised water rates. People are still hurting, and I think even though it's not a great deal of money overall, I think just I don't think it'll be well received. I think people will be upset to think, you know, we're giving ourselves a raise, even though it's not this term, it'll be for the next. So I can't support a raise. And I also don't think, from the people I've spoken with, most people wouldn't do this for the money anyhow. So another $2,000 or $4,000 to be a counselor isn't enough to sway the average person, in my opinion. Most people want to do it because they want to contribute to the community. So at least that's my take. So I won't be supporting an increase.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, I'm sure the other councillors will agree that none of us that are here ran for the money. We all ran for reasons that we wanted to do what's right for the town. So basically, we're doing community service, and you know, we are somewhat being paid for it. And I think unless you're like in a huge city like Toronto, where being a counselor is pretty much a full-time job and you have staff and everything, this is community service with some pocket money. So I won't be supporting a raise. Let the next council make their own decision.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on the motion? Not seeing any other comments. Turn to the clerk.
Thank you. So this is the amendment to limit the increases to the medium of the 2021 market summary, excluding the region, with the mayor's rate being $45,701 and councillors being $18,272. Put forward by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Olson. And the vote begins with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
No.
Councillor Hildebrand.
No.
Councillor Kaur.
No.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The amendment is defeated. It does bring you back to the original main motion. For further discussion, Mr. Mayor, to you.
Okay. Any discussion on the main motion without, obviously, the amendment? Don't see any. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. This begins with Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Wink.
No.
Councillor Hahn.
No.
Councillor Hildebrand.
No.
Councillor Kaur.
No.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is defeated. That brings you to your next report. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2022-0055 clerk restricted acts provision pursuant to section 275 of the Municipal Act for information, and that Council direct the town clerk to prepare and present a delegation of authority bylaw for certain acts during a lame duck period for Council's consideration at the next meeting of Council. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item before us? Council Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO. I'm not sure if I'm reading this right, so just ask for a little bit of clarification. So this law would give unlimited authority to the CAO during a lame duck period, is that correct?
Mr. CAO?
Well, unlimited seems like a strong word. The real problem for the corporation is that is the $50,000 ceiling, which is a material amount for us, but only just. And so basically it's the incapacity to spend in a significant way. So what I can tell you is that the way we tried to set up the roughly equivalent motion we brought at the start of the pandemic, and then of course this motion with a prior clerk and a prior CAO each year, is to set it up so that if money does need to be spent, we still go through the report process, we still talk about things publicly. It's just that there's someone who can actually sign a check, which in this case is typically the holder of my office. And then at the end of the election period, the first or second report on the agenda for the new council is a reporting and accounting of how those delegated powers, if they were used at all, it's an itemized list of when the delegated powers were used and how they were used. So that there's full transparency and accountability to then the new council, which has complete power over staff, of course. So that's the mechanism we're attempting to set up here. It's something that only gets used if necessary. No one's seeking to use it. It doesn't make our day job, my day, any better. And we go through the usual process of debate and discussion, and then what I can say, because I've done this before, albeit somewhere else, is that I simply listen to what the elected officials say, and if a majority of them think the expenditure is a good idea, then we'd respect that, and if they don't, then we wouldn't. So it doesn't look substantively different, really, but it does allow the corporation to carry on, because the alternative is that no one has the power and there's no responsible person behind the wheel, which I would submit to you is not a good alternative at all. Accordingly, this is a routine practice in the municipal world and what we're aiming for.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe with the last council, when they went to lame duck, before they went to lame duck, they had a provision to CAO, and that 50,000 was increased to 100,000. Can someone correct me or on that one?
Mr. CAO, you weren't here. Perhaps we go to another staff member, or would you know that answer?
Well, I don't know the answer. If something of that nature was going to make this more palatable to this council, then please, by all means, but pick a number higher than that, because I can buy a nice pickup truck for $100,000 in this world. So, like $250,000 or something. Not for me. I guess it's not for me to tell you the number, but if you do want to place a cap on that, I would suggest a little higher than 100.
Okay, thank you.
Does the treasurer perhaps recall what that may have been? She was around at that point.
Yes, I was just going to ask, Madam Treasurer, do you remember such a step taken by the last council just before they went into lame duck?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I don't have the number on hand, sorry.
For you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of that either. However, I can certainly endeavor to look backwards at past council meetings and try to determine whether or not a cap was placed. And I can certainly revise the bylaw, which council is directing me to bring forth to the next meeting with a potential cap. And I will discuss that with Mr. Krebs and Ms. Quinlan Murphy.
Councillor Wink?
Yeah, I just would like some input from other councillors, what they're thinking at this point.
Okay, thank you. Well, my take on this is that we've had dealings with the CAO for the last 2 years. He's been in business in the municipal world over 20. I don't believe he has any convictions of fraud. Zero. Thank you, Mr. CAO. So I myself do not think it's a big leap of faith to just pass this as it is. He's got to be under council scrutiny. It's just that he's the one that is going to be able to sign the checks. And then, like he says, when a new council comes into being, it again is put forward to them as to the expenditures that were written. I'm sure that the other staff members, Teresa, the Director of Finance and what have you, we all know them to be extremely honorable people. So myself, I don't consider this to be a leap of faith to give the to pass this as it is, but that's my feelings. Any other council members? I see Councillor Hahn.
Through the mayor, as per the clerk, with the details she's just provided, is there any reason why we can't defer this to the next meeting? Is this imperative that this is done now? It would seem like this would be something that we could push off for more information, and also have a numerical value put into it as well for a future meeting.
Certainly, at this point in time, this is not critical to pass tonight. If council so wishes, they can defer and I can bring it back to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Be looking for a mover for that.
Is there a mover for this motion? Got Councillor Hahn. And we need a seconder. Councillor Stewart.
Okay, so this would be a motion to defer, considering the matter until the next meeting. Council can discuss that.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Olson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, this is a well-established practice subject to plenty of internal controls, and there's no need to defer this. I'm going to vote against that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments before we call the vote? I'll ask that we turn to the clerk.
Thank you. I do see Councillor Hahn has her hand
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry, Councillor Hahn.
Yes, through the mayor. Well, as per the clerk's suggestion, we would want to put a numerical value, and I believe that was also the suggestion of the CAO. So, and that was a suggestion that would come back at a future meeting. So, because we don't have that decided at this point in time, unless we're going to hum and haw this for some time tonight, which doesn't seem to be imperative, then it would make probably more sense to defer this when we have a number in front of us. Hence the reason for putting this motion of deferral forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other discussion? Not seeing any. We'll go turn to the clerk.
Thank you. The vote will begin. This is for the motion to defer consideration. The vote begins with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
No.
Mayor Junkin.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry, and the report will be brought back forward to the next meeting. To you, Mr. Mayor, our next item on the agenda is a motion being put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2022-0083 Procedural Bylaw Update for information, and that council approve in principle the updated procedural bylaw as presented, and that council direct the proposed bylaw be presented to council for a first, second reading at their next regular meeting, and that the clerk be directed to provide notice in accordance with the town's notice policy prior to presenting the bylaw for its third reading and adoption. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions, comments on this motion? Not seeing any hands. To you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote will begin with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
No.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
No.
Councillor Kaur.
No.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Sorry, no.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have 4 noes, therefore it is defeated.
So if I may say something, usually if we are going to vote against something, we usually have a debate to give staff direction as to why we're not voting for this. Obviously, we've already had the vote, but I would have thought myself that if you weren't going to vote for this, I thought perhaps council would have given staff an indication as to what they found wrong with the work, so it could be brought up to their standards as such. Madam Clerk, seeing as we have had the vote and it is a no and it's carried, I take it that this is either what's the next step for this particular bylaw?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The matter, as you have indicated, has been disposed of. It has been defeated. Our current procedural bylaw does indicate that a member of council could, at the exact same meeting that something was brought up, bring a motion to reconsider. And if that was to pass, then I could bring this report back for reconsideration at the following council meeting. If that does not happen tonight and nobody wishes to reconsider, then this matter has been disposed of, and it would require a 2/3 majority vote at a different meeting to resurrect this at some other point in time. I defer to the CAO if he has any other advice.
Mr. CAO?
The clerk has identified the only way forward. This was an action item in the strategic plan. You ordered us to bring this to you. There were specific items that you also voted on and ordered us deferred to the spring of 2022, and we've brought them back in compliance. This report satisfied 4 or 5 motions, and there were a number of pieces in it. The important part of the mayor says is we need to hear your debate, your thought, or what you're unhappy with, to be able to serve you better. So I walk away not knowing if it was the proposed move to Tuesday nights, if it was the capacity to be able to amend and have reports beside delegations, as worked well this evening. Which part was fatal to it? At any rate, certainly hope we reconsider and at least let us know what was unsatisfactory, because ultimately this procedural bylaw is important, but it's most important for council, for you to be able to control this corporation and lead this community in the most efficient manner possible. It's not, I mean, staff do gain some benefit from having a clear procedural bylaw, but I would submit to you respectfully, the dominant beneficiaries are the 7 of you. And I don't think any of us know why this was just defeated.
Okay, thank you. But before I go to you, Councilor Wink, we've already voted on this. So, Madam Clerk or Mr. CAO, is it now? I would think I put forward that it's too late now, or is that Madam Clerk?
If you wish to reconsider, you're capable of doing that.
I see.
But it has to be someone who voted for, well, the rules of reconsideration, ironically, were one of the things we suggested changing. Ours don't currently read properly. And the way the system's supposed to work is that to reconsider, someone who supported a proposition wants to change his or her mind and needs to be one of the people who suggest the reconsideration. It's not exactly what our current procedural bylaws. Well, it's not what our current procedural bylaw says.
Okay.
Yeah, so if council so chooses to reconsider and pass a reconsideration motion tonight, any member of council can move and second that. At the following meeting, I would bring the same report with the same motion and certainly would welcome council's feedback, and certainly council can make amendments. Perhaps it is Tuesday nights, so council can say that they approve the document in principle subject to the following amendments. One, that meetings happen on Monday nights, for example. I would document all of those amendments, and once we know that, I would be bringing forth the amended bylaw for its first and second reading. Council would then have another opportunity to take a look at that bylaw and further direct the clerk to make further amendments, and then I would be bringing it for its third and final reading with adoption. And again, council would have another kick at the can. So either council can bring a motion to reconsider, otherwise the matter is disposed of.
Okay, thank you. So what we need is someone who voted no to put forward a motion of reconsideration. If that isn't put forward, then the matter dies. Councillor Wink?
Yes, so I'd like to make a comment. There's a lot of items and things within this bylaw that we haven't discussed. There was some who wanted that were satisfied with the report, but obviously there's certain things in this report that other members of council didn't like. I'm not sure if it's everything in the report or just one or two things in the report, but we probably should have approached it in a different way and divided it on every item. So whether it's curfew, agenda limits, delegations, each one we would have had a comment on, but there's a lot of work put into this report, and it's to help us and the next council. I would put through a motion to reconsider and have it brought back to the next council meeting, and we deal with each item individually, whether we want it or not. So, for example, one councillor might not have wanted the meetings moved to Tuesday and defeated the entire motion. But maybe we would have been okay with some other things, or maybe there was some compromises that could have been done. But I'm sorry to flat out know this without discussion. Just doesn't sit right.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wink. Councillor Hahn?
Through the mayor, the reason I voted no was because I'm of the opinion that we've only got 5 or 6 months left or something like that. So this would be decisions that I think that the next council would make. So for us to, for example, change the date from a Monday to a Tuesday, well, why would we determine what the next council is going to want for their day of council, or that we're going to move from 9 to 9:30 for curfew? Again, why would we make that decision 5 or 6 months out? Why would we not allow the next council to decide that? So for me, it made sense to vote no.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sorry, Councillor Wink.
Yeah, so just to make comment on that, like think of all of this council when they first started out. They didn't have a clue on any of this. So what we're trying to do is set it up to make things a little easier and more successful for the next council. They don't have a clue on how many pages they're going to read and for a meeting, and how much prep is required, and they don't know delegation limits and whatever. So I think this change in bylaw is trying to set the next council up for success and not having to make all those decisions that we, in all honesty, have an opinion on.
Thank you, Councillor. Going back to Councillor Hahn's comment, I remember when we discussed this, whether it be 6 months ago or 8 months ago, and we were discussing the Tuesday night option, the reason it didn't pass
Can I have
then...
a point of order?
Yes, go ahead.
To the clerk, are we debating, what are we debating here? The vote was no, and you're asking for someone to step up, yes or no, they want to change their vote, right? Are we supposed to be debating?
Councillor, Madam Clerk, want to make a ruling on that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the ruling would come from the mayor. However, I understood that Councillor Wink was considering bringing a motion to reconsider to bring the item back to the next meeting, and that's the discussion or debate is around whether or not a motion to reconsider should be brought on the floor. Councillor Kaur is correct. We would need a seconder. I would just be looking for Councillor Wink's confirmation that he did, in fact, wish to bring that as a motion.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Isn't the one that said no has to bring it back? Am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our current procedural bylaw that is currently in effect indicates that any councillor who voted positively or negatively can bring a motion to reconsider. The motion to reconsider has to occur at the same night as the meeting that the decision was made. So it has to be today at this meeting to be able to reconsider it at the following meeting. The procedural bylaw that I have recommended here would indicate that the councillor who voted in the affirmative, whichever way passed, would have to bring it. So it's a little bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if Councillor Wink wants to bring the motion forward, he's allowed to this time, Madam Clerk?
If you would like to bring a motion to reconsider, tonight would be the night to do that.
Yes. Councillor Wink?
So I'd like to make a motion to reconsider, to bring it back at the next meeting where we can look at each item individually and vote on each item as opposed to the bylaw as presented in whole, which obviously was defeated.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder on this motion? And there is no seconder.
Thank you. I've noted that there is no seconder, and that disposes of the matter, and we would be moving on through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does bring us to our next item, which is the unfinished business. And I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive a request for an exemption of noise bylaw number 3130-2010 as amended, dated March 24th, 2022, and the attached additional detailed letter dated April 6th, 2022 for information, and that Council approve the noise bylaw exemption at 2 College Street, Fonthill, Ontario, May 22nd, 2022 from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. To Mr. Mayor for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any comments or questions on this bylaw? Go ahead, Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. One of the comments was with regards to the motion or the suggestion that Councillor Wink made at the last meeting that the resident be responsible to contact all the residents on College Street to get his approval. I think if I got that right, Councillor Wink, you can correct me if I was wrong. And I've got a notification from one of the residents that said he was not contacted. So I just want to check with Councillor Wink whether that was a question he left.
Well, that was a question that was asked the gentleman. There was nothing that we put back on the person saying, contact the residents. He contacted a number of residents and said that they were all in the affirmative, but I'm questioning whether or not he contacted everyone within this half of his street and half of Emmett Street and the people on South Pelham. He just, from what I understand, he asked a few neighbors, and in fact invited some of those neighbors to the party, which is always a good thing to get a positive vote for. So yeah, you're correct. I asked for all the neighbors, but this is what we've got.
Thank you. Perhaps the chief is here, Chief Bylaw, top bylaw guy. Chief, have you got any comments to make on this application at this time?
Well, from our experience, Bylaws experience, the people that step up and ask for these permissions are well organized and they're respectful. The people that easily go offside with these noise problems and complaints of the people that don't ask for permission, they just do it, and then we get the complaints afterwards. So these people seem to be legit and concerned, and we can express it to them that they need to contact a bigger area of the neighborhood to let them know. But this is not going to be any means a rock concert. It's going to be a small couple-piece band. It's well within our timelines, 2 to 8. It's not past the deadline. So I wouldn't anticipate any issues at all. Sorry, I wouldn't anticipate any problems with this event.
Okay, thank you for that, Chief Limburner. Councillor Hildebrand, you had your hand up.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I was contacted by a resident. He said the venue was going to entertain a heavy rock band, and that's what concerned him. And he suggested the resident select a venue that's acceptable, like Peace Park, or apply for MCC or some other area to apply. So I will not be supporting the motion to give them an exemption.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Corr?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the chief. If we permit to pass this, and if it gets out of control, could we go back and stop the music, or our hands are tied?
Dear Mr. Mayor, no, we always have that option. So if we grant permission to have this and it gets too large or too loud or out of control, then we definitely, and the police also have the ability to go in and mitigate it.
Councillor Corr?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Olson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll vote in favor of this because I think it's a small, respectful request, and I think the people that live down there, they put up with us at the Peace Park, and they have our music at night. The least we can do is allow somebody to enjoy a birthday party. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Olson. After hearing the chief saying that we do have a recourse if things get out of hand, and the fact that this gentleman has indeed come to the bylaw to ask for a permit, I'm also going to support this application at this time. Any other questions or comments before we ask the clerk to conduct a vote? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The vote begins with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
No.
Councillor Corr.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Mr. Mayor, that does bring you to the presentation consideration of bylaws. We do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaw, do now read a first, second, and third time and to pass same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1. Bylaw 4446, 2022, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 4068, 2019, as amended, confirming various appointments to boards, commissions, and committees of the Town of Pelham, and to appoint a member to the Town of Pelham Summerfest Committee schedule. And 2, Bylaw 4447/2022, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1136/1987 as amended for lands located on the southeast corner of Port Robinson Road and Station Street, legally described as part of Lot 172, formerly Township of Thorold, now in the Town of Pelham. The zoning bylaw amendment rezones the lands from agricultural A zone to the following zones: residential 2-316, R2 316, residential multiple 1-317, RM1-317, residential multiple 2-318, RM2 318, East Fawn Hill open space EF-OS, East Fawn Hill Stormwater Management EF-SWM, East Fawn Hill Environmental Protection EF-EP. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any discussion, questions on these bylaws? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. Mr. Mayor, that brings you to item 14, and we do have a notice of motion from Councillor Wink regarding the MCC parking. To you, Mr. Wink. Councillor Wink.
Yes. So at the next meeting, I will be bringing a motion regarding the MCC parking and requesting staff report on options with respect to parking. Just to, we've talked about this long enough. We've waited for the report. We've received the report, and now it's time to start putting something in action, hopefully before the end of our term of council.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Wink. Back to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider a matter under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as follows. E, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees. D, labor relations or employee negotiations. And K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipality or local board, one item, non-unionized staff. And Section 239(3) of the Municipal Act. B, an ongoing investigation respecting the municipality, a local board, or a municipally controlled corporation by the ombudsman appointed under the Ombudsman Act, an ombudsman referred to in subsection 223.13(1) of this Act, or the investigator referred to in subsection 239.2A. One item, file number MO4-01-2021. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any discussion about going into closed session? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote begins with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does carry. If you can give the Clerk's Department just a few moments to ensure that we've stopped the recording and the live streaming, I would appreciate that.